Welcome to Serious Business on NDTV, 30 minutes of hard business news. One topic, one speaker, and a conversation that's relevant to you. I'm Manvi Sinha Dhillon. India's spend on research and development is among the lowest in the world. That's according to a 2022 study by the government's Niti Aayog and the Institute for Competitiveness. India's spend on research and development is just about 0.7% of GDP. That's lower than most BRICS nations, lower than the global average, which is 1.8% of GDP. So why should we be concerned? Well, for a number of reasons, and I'm just going to list 3 reasons. Innovation stems from research and development. Secondly, innovation and innovative opportunities will probably help retain talent within the country. Thirdly, if India wants to become a $5 trillion economy, then you've got to spend at least 2% of GDP on research and development. Kris Gopalakrishnan, co-founder and former CEO of Infosys, has a more ambitious ask. He's pushing for a 3% spend, 3% of GDP spent on research and development, and he's pushing for private contribution. He's leading by example. He's committed 750 crore over the next 5 years to just research. He's already spent 500 crore on research. And that's why it gives me great pleasure to welcome him on Serious Business today to understand the link between research and development, social impact, and societal value. And hopefully by listening to him, others will follow his lead. Kris Gopalakrishnan, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for
on
having
NDTV.
me.
And you know, it's great to be here in Bengaluru talking to you face to face. I think it's becoming rarer and rarer to do that. I'm going to jump straight to it. Describe, so that everyone knows, what your philanthropic focus is. It is research focused, but just describe it to us, the nuts and bolts.
So first of all, my focus is doing world-class research in India, collaboratively with other research locations. And the reason for this is we have major issues, problems facing the world: climate change, lifestyle diseases, aging society, environment, water. So many issues are there, and we join together and collectively address these issues. I believe that it will be solved faster. And India has the talent, India has the diversity, India has lower cost, and India also has many of the problems that are facing the rest of the world. We are kind of the microcosm of the world. So I firmly believe that India has to play an even bigger role in finding solutions for these problems, and from India to the world is the theme now, right? So in research also, I firmly believe that we need to think about India contributing positively to finding solutions, leveraging technology, leveraging the talent we have, and the lower cost environment that we have, so that rest of the world can benefit.
And you've zeroed it on brain research. So can you sort of walk us through how you arrived at that focus?
So when I stepped down from Infosys and said I'm going to focus on research and working with the research ecosystem that exists in the country, I felt I have to narrow it down, because that's very, very large canvas. To make an impact with however small way I can do, I have to narrow it down. It's logical for me to look at brain, because all the development in computing came from us wondering about the brain, us trying to understand the brain better, inspired by how we believe the brain works. So even if you look at the topic of the day, AI and machine learning and neural networks and deep learning networks, etc., it came from us trying to understand the brain better. So trying to understand the brain better will give us better models of computing. It will also address one of the most important problems for society, which is neurodegeneration as we age. Diseases like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, dementia, these do not have cures yet, and entire world is aging. India will also become an aging society over the next 30 years. That means the number of people above the age of 60 will be the largest segment of the population. So we need to address that, and that's why I narrowed it on brain.
So how did you go about it?
Yes, there's one more. See, when we want to leapfrog and lead the world, you need to find an area where there is nobody leading. It's an area where it's ready for disruption. So, entire world is actually investing in the brain, and we should also be investing.
So how did you go about it? I mean, picking the institutes to support, making sure that there's a collaborative kind of ecosystem, because I may be presumptuous when I say this, but again, collaboration is kind of missing in the Indian research piece as well, or perhaps I'm wrong.
So those are two different aspects. So I narrowed down the institutes that I collaborate to ensure that they will want to work with me or philanthropy, and I feel that they are some of the best institutes in the country. So I chose IIT Madras, which is my alma mater, and Institute of Science, the #1 research institute in the country, which is here in Bangalore. So it becomes very convenient for me. So these are the two institutes where I'm basically investing, and then because it's collaborative, I look at so for example NCBS here in Bangalore, the NIMHANS, which is the #1 neuroscience institute in the country. So these are the other institutes that I narrowed down to, and in IIT Madras and in Institute of Science, both on the computing side as well as on understanding the brain from a health perspective, medicine perspective, we are doing the research.
You've said that philanthropy is like patient risk capital. And I'm wondering, how then do you keep track of goals, or how is goal setting done and progression on goals sort of mapped? Because to an outsider, to a layman, it seems like a challenge.
Yeah. So first of all, I want to support research that are moonshot kind of projects, things that will make a difference if we succeed. Research always is risky, but if we succeed, it will make a difference. So neurodegeneration, new models of computing, understanding the brain better. I felt these are ambitious goals. These are goals which you must give a 10-year horizon. Then within that, you actually break it down to what are the things that you will achieve in 1 year, 3 years, 5 years. So set those goals and make sure that you're making progress in the short term so that you can achieve the long-term goals. So in the 1 year horizon, it may be, in the beginning, the team is there, the equipment is there, the capacity is being built, you've identified partners you will work with. In the 3 year horizon, papers start coming out, data is accumulated. So in Institute of Science perspective, we said we will track how 10,000 people age in the rural setting and about 1,000 people age in the urban setting, so that we can have a very comprehensive view of how people age, and if they develop neurodegeneration, we can analyze the data to understand, could you have detected it earlier? Later on, we can do intervention studies to see whether through intervention we can slow down the neurodegeneration, or we can even reverse it, stop it, etc. In IIT,
I want to interrupt there. So how long does a project like that take? I mean, what kind of time horizon are we looking at that? The study with a potential intervention and to see the impact of the intervention, what time horizons?
So we started this in 2015 with a 10-year horizon, because it's a 10-year study. But due to COVID, etc., we got pushed back because we were not allowed to go back and collect data, etc. So we have extended it for the next 5 years, so that we can hit the 10,000 mark. So that's the horizon.
Yeah, I interrupted there, but you were going on to explain what you're doing with IIT Madras.
So with IIT Madras, actually, they went into a different direction. Sheer serendipity, I must say. One of the chair professors who was appointed with my grant, happened to be mapping mouse brain, and IIT Madras joined that program. But suddenly, in one of the discussions at IIT Madras, somebody put the idea on the table saying, why don't we map the human brain? Human brain is far more complex, billions of neurons, trillions of connections, etc. But why don't we attempt to do that? We came up with an idea to do that, and I'm hopeful that with the work that is being done there, India will give to the world the first digital brain atlas that will be used in training medical professionals, that may be used to look at how you operate on patients, and a human brain atlas at the resolution that they are able to do, which is at the cellular level. I think this will be a contribution from India, and then of course there are other things that will come out of that. They have crossed about 35-36 brains. They want to go up to 120 brains. I think they will achieve it.
And again, what's the time horizon?
This has been done in the last 2 years. Very quickly they have been able to do this with support from, they have a set of hospitals across the country who are donating cadaver brains, people who are dead, etc. The brains have to be preserved. I think you can at some point do a documentary on that, because it's wonderful to see how something like this only can be done in an engineering institute, because they have converted the whole problem into an engineering problem, a factory approach to analyze brains, and it will push the limits of computing, push the limits on how you are able to slice tissue at 50 micron thickness without destroying that, create a slide on that, digitize it, put it on computer, etc. Each brain will generate petabytes of data.
I'm going back to the collaboration point that I had raised, and this is an unfair question to put to you, but is there collaboration between the Indian Institute of Science Center and the IIT Madras Center, and do you end up being the sort of glue that keeps the collaboration going?
I push for collaboration, definitely. People tend to go back to their cocoon and want to just focus on the work that they do, but I am really pushing for collaboration for multiple reasons, because with the same data, different people ask different questions. They look at it from different lenses, so we may get more insights from the same data. Second, with collaboration, a problem which is faced by one person may have been resolved somewhere else, or looking at somebody else doing something, you may get an idea of how to solve this problem, etc. So I am pushing them, saying that have seminars periodically, have visits periodically, plus we are also linking up these institutions with labs around the world. So the Center for Brain Research in IISc is working with labs in the US. In IIT Madras case, because this map is of interest to the entire world, already about 20 labs around the world working in the area of brain sciences is working with them already. And they have got, I think, 3 or 4 visiting professors. These are inward requests to come and work at IIT Madras.
That's fantastic to hear, actually.
Yes, very much.
And you were talking about looking at the same thing through different lenses. You'll find me kind of repeating questions here because you've alluded to some of the answers already. But one point, private participation or private support for research and development, not just leaving it to the government to achieve. How critical is that? And the other piece is, somebody's got to support big ideas and therefore make big fund commitments upfront over a relatively long time frame. So 2 aspects I wanted you to sort of address and share your experience on.
So private philanthropy is important because you bring your experiences in some other area, like in my case, it's building Infosys, growing Infosys, managing a large workforce, managing collaboration with clients around the world, best multinationals around the world. So that's one aspect of it. The second aspect of it is how we solve problems in the private sector with speed, with deadlines and things like that. Again, you bring the same experience, and I share these things. I am not involved in the research, but I share these things with them, and I also talk to them about, in private sector you have to be accountable, right? So I am saying the world is like that. So you need to be accountable for the money that you are receiving. You need to give status reports, you need to give progress reports, you have to push yourself, treat this as a mission mode program. The reason why ISRO is succeeding in a big way is because every one of them is a mission mode program with specific goals to be delivered within fixed time frames. So that, I believe, is what private sector participation will bring. Money, of course, is important, but I think the best practices from private sector, I think, are very important. Of course, when industry gets involved, they also look at how to take this work and make it into products and services and technologies that will benefit the society. So hopefully the atlas, that brain atlas that they create, will be now used in medical education, will be used by surgeons, etc. The work that IIC is doing, if we are able to find cures or ability to slow down, definitely will go into practice, etc.
Well, on that note, we're going to take a break, and when we return, some frequently asked questions that are derived from the comments section online by NDTV subscribers, NDTV viewers. We're going to pose those to Kris Gopalakrishnan back in a moment. Welcome back to Serious Business on NDTV. Today we're in conversation with Kris Gopalakrishnan, and we're talking about the importance of research and development, especially for a country like India. Kris, frequently asked questions. These are comments that come from online consumers of NDTV. And one of the questions that keeps coming is, you have a lot of experience as an entrepreneur, as an institution builder. You've already referred to how you're able to apply that in your philanthropic efforts. But just recap, what are some of the key principles that you keep in mind while shaping your philanthropic initiatives?
So two principles. One is to do world-class research in India. Second is world-class research in one area where India can positively contribute to the world, which is why I chose brain and brain-inspired science, etc. Second is when I look at what is happening in India, most proposals are 1 crore or less. Most proposals look at producing a PhD or publishing a paper. But I felt that we need to be more ambitious, we need to set goals which are longer term and aim to achieve those goals, mission mode programs on a specific problem that's facing. And in my case, the two things that we are now working on are, one, to look at neurodegenerative diseases and understanding them better and maybe finding cures. And the second one is to understand the brain better, how brain is structured, functions, etc., through the atlas that we are attempting to create. So these are mission mode programs, and that, I believe, is how we should set our goals, choose certain areas which I believe are cutting edge, which we are not behind anybody, so we can leapfrog and have a societal impact in doing that.
Mission mode projects or initiatives require upfront fund commitment as well. So we've talked about it, but it's important to underline that.
Very much so, because we need to attract some of the best people to come there, right? And and work in these areas. So you have to give them a line of sight that they can work in this field for 10 years if need be. They can invest their time, their effort in doing this, because unless we do that, they will not join this program, because incentives matter, right, ultimately, and we need to give them that runway, commitment for that. Putting together the team, for example, at IISc we have more than 100 people now working in this area. So putting the team together will take some time, and we have to give them the runway to create an impact.
Societal value of research. We've talked about the societal value of research into the brain. So we've talked about your specific sort of outlook when it comes to supporting brain research. But I think people forget sometimes what the societal value of research per se, research and development is. Share your thoughts on that if you can.
So if I use US as an example and look at the last, let's say 70 years, from 1945 when the digital computer was introduced, I firmly believe that the world went from a 10 trillion to 100 trillion, 10 times. US went from about 3-4 trillion to now 20 trillion, 5 times, primarily because of the development in the digital computing era, and the most highest market cap companies in the world today are all digital computing related companies. The magnificent seven that people describe, Apple, Microsoft, Google or Meta, Tesla, companies like Amazon, etc. So they are all, they are the pioneers in the digital computing era. So when I look at India and see India becoming, 5 trillion is a short term goal, I would like to see India becoming a $30 trillion economy, which is possible, I believe. I feel that it has to be built on innovation and entrepreneurship, which creates these very large enterprises. See, what is my learning working in the IT services industry? Out of the top 10 IT services firms in the world, 5 are Indian. We are doing today a revenue of about $250 billion out of nothing 20 years back, 25 years back. We have built this industry, we have created 5 million jobs. So that is the potential that exists when you create a new field, grow it very big, scale it very big, and create a world class industry. I believe we need to do that in multiple industries, multiple sectors, in automotive, in healthcare, in retail and e-commerce. In every sector we need to create these large companies. To some extent in banking we are able to do that, and we are seen as leaders in the fintech space in the world. Indeed. With the India stack and things like that. So the potential exists in multiple industries that we can do this, and that's how we will create the $30 trillion economy. That high growth that is required will have to be built on innovation, and innovation will come from research.
Well, that's a perfect note on which to end our conversation today, and I wish you all the very best on this exciting and ambitious journey, and I hope we can talk frequently about the progress that's being made. Kris Gopalakrishnan, thank you for joining us on Serious Business.
No, thank you, Manvi, and I hope people will listen to this and commit more money to research. Thank you.
Well, that's our purpose as well. Thanks. Okay.